Amazing Thanksgiving dinner here at the church, provided by Tammy. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good would you rate the food?
10.
All right. Wow, Tammy got a 10. All right, that's awesome. We really appreciate it, Tammy, and we appreciate the service there. All right, does anyone have any verses? Yes.
Mark 16 through verse 16 through 16. He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not be baptized will be condemned.
All right, good job. All right, and let's see, what song do you guys want to do? What song? This is your time to be creative. It's all on this moment. No.
The wise man.
All right, the wise man. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock, and the rains came tumbling down. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up.
The rains came down as the floods came up, and the house on the rock stood firm.
The foolish man built his house upon the sand. The foolish man built his house upon the sand.
The foolish man built his house upon the sand, and the rains came tumbling down.
The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up. The rains came down as the floods came up,
And the house on the sands went splat.
So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ.
So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ.
So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ, and the blessings come down. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. The blessings come down as the prayers go up. So build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. All right, good job. You guys can go sit down. All right. I seriously almost said the wise man built his house upon the sand. That would have been a bad plot twist. Anyway, good morning, everyone. Another thing that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention during announcements is the play that will be coming up. It's going to be that Christian play based on Max Lucado's book. We've got permission to do it here, and we've got now most of our cast all filled in and signed up, so we've got a lot of different families around the area who are going to be here in the church and performing here, and it'll be awesome. So it'll be a good time to support them, and then this is also for fundraising for the building as well, so we're going to be working on that all together. So yeah, if you guys want to come, if you guys want to donate anything, if you guys want to help with set building or anything, be awesome. I actually went dumpster diving in Visalia on Thanksgiving because I walked by a dumpster and there was a big wooden door in it. And I thought, that would be one big wooden door that I don't have to buy. So yeah, if you guys see a big wooden door, in here in the play, just don't touch it that much because it was in a dumpster. All right, so good morning, and this lesson here, we're going to be talking about the second yes. Not the first yes, not the third yes, but the second yes. So what is the second yes? Well, picture this. You're getting engaged, and the guy, he gets down on one knee, and he pops the question. And the girl says, yes. That's the first yes. That's the carefree, happy, yes, that sounds awesome, so head over heels in love, yes, that sounds wonderful. And they get married and they move into the blissful honeymoon stage, and after that, after, all the happiness and the joy and everything, it's time for the second yes. And what the second yes is, it's not like the first yes that was just, happy, carefree, and in that, it's much harder. The second yes is a yes in the times of hardship. It's a yes to being committed to each other, forsaking all others. It's a yes to be kind to each other, even when the other person is unkind. It's a yes to being present and involved with your family, present in your spouse's life and present in your kid's life, even when the world may leave and the world may cut out and the world may skip out on the job that God designed for us to do. It's yes to putting the members of your family and your family before yourself. So these yeses, these second yeses, are so important, but sometimes maybe overlooked, especially in the shadow of the joy of the first yes. That yes is so wonderful and so happy, and everybody loves that yes. But in following through in those second yeses and the hard times, that's where the character really counts. So I kind of want to talk about mine and Sarah's engagement here. So we were in Michigan, and I had the ring, I had everything all ready to go, and we went to a place called Belle Isle. And this is just an island right on the border of Michigan and Detroit, and Canada. So it's really nice out there. It was May, so you can bet that the weather was snowy. Because, it's always snowy in Michigan. But so it was May, and there was snow on the ground. And just the island is a big touristy place, but when it's snowy, it's deserted. So we were just walking through there, and they have a conservatory there, and that's kind of like a big greenhouse, just basically a big chunk of California. But so we go in there, and it's really nice in there. It's warm in there. It's really the only place in Michigan that is warm. But so we went in there. Sarah would kill me if she heard me say this right now, by the way. But so we go in there, and I had a photo album, a set of 3 photo albums. And the first photo album was kind of pictures of her and I as kids, and just kind of progressing in our lives. And then the second photo album had a lot of pictures of our relationship together, and it just kind of progressed like that. And then the third photo album was empty except for one picture. And the picture was a picture that says, "Sarah, I love you. Will you marry me?" And so when she read it and she lowered the photo album, I was down on one knee. Now I was having a hard time at this point because I had the ring box in my hand, and I kind of wanted to, kind of have it open and all in its little pedestal. But when I shook the box a little bit, I could hear that the ring was rattling around in there. So to not get her suspicion as she's reading this second photo album, I've got the box in my hand here, and I'm kind of like opening it and finagling with one hand, putting the ring back in there, and just thinking, don't drop this, don't drop this. You've seen videos on Facebook, don't drop this, So I didn't drop it, thankfully, because there's a fountain behind us and stuff. I'm thinking, oh man, that would be bad. But I didn't drop it, and when she lowered that third photo album, I was there, and I said, "Sarah, I love you. Will you marry me?" And she said, "Ah!" Which I wasn't sure how to take at first. So I said, "Does that mean yes?" And she said yes. So that was our first yes, So that was our first yes. But the second yes is the yes of, even though we were head over heels happy there, the second yes is saying yes and putting each other first, and all these things that I had just mentioned here of our relationship, of even in the hard times and in the times when we're mad at each other or sad, as well as in the good times, that we keep on saying yes, that we keep on having that commitment. So I think that this is an awesome analogy for our spiritual life. And our spiritual life can kind of be summed up in these 2 yeses. We say the first yes in our spiritual life when we want Jesus. We want Jesus in our life. We recognize that need that we have for him. We recognize that hole that we have in our heart that can only be filled with him. We say yes, that we want to be saved from our sins, because we don't want to go to hell. I don't think anyone does. We say yes, that we want blessings, that we want God to influence and bless our lives in that. Those are the first yeses, the easy, happy, honeymoon yeses. But the second yeses are kind of like the second yeses in a relationship. They're harder. That it's a lot harder to say yes in these second times. So what are the second yeses? And we got a Bible verse here from John 14:21, and it says, "Whosoever has my commandments and keeps them is the one who loves me. The one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love them and show myself to them." So Jesus is saying these second yeses here, this is going to be the obedience of the commands that Jesus gave. And that's going to show that love. That's going to show and validate that first yes. That first yes, even though it's easy and you may feel it in the moment, that the second yeses are going to define, and the second yeses are going to validate the first yes that was so easy to say. So, a couple things. I was kind of scanning through the scriptures to see what commands Jesus gave. And there were a ton, but they were all really awesome. But I just want to run through a little bit here. He said, love the Lord your God. He said, love your neighbor. Repent. Do not worry. Follow me. Be reconciled with your brother. Let your light shine. Love your enemies. Lay up treasures in heaven. Pray for the laborers in the vineyard. Honor your parents. Deny yourself. Love your enemies. Go to your brother who offends you. Honor marriage. All of these things were different commands found in Matthew and Luke, and I could go through them, but we'd be here a long time if we went through them all. But they're all just amazing commands, and they're ones that are very hard sometimes. They kind of sound easy on the surface. Oh yeah, honor your parents. Well, anyone who's a kid can tell you that one's pretty hard. Right, Chloe? But, these commands are pretty hard sometimes. All of these are the second yeses, the ones that take commitment, the ones that are said in the hard times. And these are the signs of what it takes for a good relationship, whether it's with your spouse or with God, that you're able to say yes in these second yeses. So I want to look at the few of the ways, and I mentioned a bunch here, but I wanted to get kind of deeper into a couple ones that I had set aside here. So the first one is to say yes to giving. So I want to take us to Matthew chapter 5 here. And this is the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus says, "You have heard it said, eye for eye, and tooth for tooth." Basically the rule of revenge, whatever you take from me, I'm going to take from you. "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you." So Jesus is saying, give, even when it feels like it's wrong, or even when you feel like you're hurt, or even when you feel like you're wronged, to give, to be generous to those who are not generous to you, to be generous to those who are hurtful to you. To give people the benefit of the doubt in giving to them, to helping them. I've heard a lot of people, sometimes they skirt around this. They have a variety of reasons, that they can't help someone or they can't give to someone. There was an article that CNN did a couple years back, and it was an expose on a homeless lady. And what they did was, they followed the lady around, they watched, what she did, they tried to calculate, how much she made and all this. And what they did was they followed her, and she, after being on the streets all day, she would go and she would get into her car, and she would drive, and she would go to her house. And that was the way that she made a living. Not that she was needy, or not that she was, homeless, or not that she was anything like that, but that she was taking advantage of it and taking advantage of people's generosity. But they published this, and now suddenly I heard tons of people saying, oh man, you just can't trust it. Oh man, I can't give to that person because I don't know what they're going to do with it. Oh, I can't give to that person because they might use it for drugs. They're probably living out of their car somewhere. Somebody's pulled over. They say, oh man, I can't give them money for gas. Those kind of things. And I think that ends up taking away from what Jesus said here, because Jesus didn't say, validate and see if that person deserves your gift. Jesus didn't say, validate and see if that person really needs what you're going to give them. Because if God did that to us, I would say I'm probably not deserving of any blessings that he's ever given me, And I think if we looked at ourselves honestly, we could all say that, that Jesus just said give. That was it. He just said give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away the one who wants to borrow from you. That was all he said. There wasn't a but there. There wasn't an if. There wasn't an and. A lot of the verses, and this was something we looked at in this morning's class, a lot of the verses that Jesus said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I say to you. But I say to you. And he would say what was originally there and what the new covenant was, what God was giving people in return. But instead of this suddenly being a thing of, treat people how they treat you, of, whatever you do to me, whatever eye for eye, tooth for tooth thing, Jesus says no. Love those who hate you. Do good to those who persecute you. Give to the one who asks you. Turn the other cheek. If somebody sues you for your shirt, give them your coat too. That was the love that Jesus had, and the love he wanted us to share. Not to validate, not to show someone, not for any of that. I liked how the Matthew Henry commentary said it. And he says, in explaining this particular verse here, he says, the plain instruction is, suffer any injury that can be borne for the sake of peace, committing your concerns to the Lord's keeping. And the sum of all is that Christians must avoid disputing and striving. If any say flesh and blood cannot pass by such an affront, let them remember that flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom of God. And those who act on right principles will have the most peace and comfort. Even when we feel like, oh, we can't do that. Oh, that we still strive in just following what Jesus said, without the ifs, without the ands, without the buts. And that kind of leads us into our second point here. Number 2, it says, say yes to being cheated. Say yes to being cheated. Who here likes to be cheated out of something they rightfully deserve? Not me, I can't think of a single person who wants something that they feel like they deserve, or something that they should have cheated and taken away from them. Not a single person. No one wants that. But here's what Paul writes in 1 Corinthians. He says, therefore, if you have disputes about such matters, do you ask for a ruling from those whose way of life is scorned in the church? I say this to shame you. Is it possible that there is no one among you wise enough to judge a dispute between believers? But instead, one brother takes another to court, and this in front of unbelievers. The very fact that you have lawsuits among you means that you have been completely defeated already. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? Why not let yourself be given up? Why not be selfless of yourself to appease someone else's selfishness? There's another translation in the New Living Translation, and it says, why not rather let yourself be wronged? Why not rather let yourself be cheated? That kind of already implies that they know that the cheating is going on. We know. It's not like, oh man, they cheated behind my back. No. That they know, and you're willingly letting them cheat you out of what you deserve, because that's the right thing to do. That's what God wants us to do, rather than saying, this is mine and I'm going to take this stand and this is what I deserve. No. To give up of yourself. To let yourself go, to die to the flesh. That's what Jesus did. That's what Jesus did for us. He didn't deserve to die on the cross. In a way, he was in that being cheated out of his life on earth. But he let himself be cheated. He let himself be wronged. He let himself be scorned. He let himself be crucified on the cross because of his love for us. He let himself die for our sins, for our transgressions. He was cheated out of it because we cheated him out of it with our sin. But he willingly gave it up for us. There was no stake or claim or anything that they could pin him on. There was nothing. He could have even on the cross called 10,000 angels, but he didn't. He allowed himself to be cheated out of it. I remember in the Garden of Gethsemane. Now this is kind of where Jesus almost illustrates that second yes of the relationship. You know, he says yes to the Father, that he comes down to earth and he lives his life. And then in the garden, he's praying. He's praying and he's saying, Lord, if it's your will, take this cup from me. But if not, I will go and I will do. That's Jesus literally saying the second yes, that he said, yes, I will go down there. And then in the moment when he could just run away from it all, he says the second yes. Lord, I'm going to follow through with the plan that you have. Even in the hard time, Jesus said the second yes for us. So we were driving recently from Texas or to Texas and back. And it was long, and it was kind of, it was the longest car trip I've ever done. That was 8 hours in a day. That was like the equivalent of a full-time job of driving. And Uncle Steve knows what I'm talking about, because it was unpleasant, just driving. You're in a small car, and you never realize just how stinky it gets when several people are in close proximity to each other for a long amount of time. And in our van, the driver's side window does not roll down. So you are stuck. There's nothing, no hope for you at all. But so we were right on the border of California and Arizona. I think it was like Barstow area, maybe Boron, a little bit past Boron. But we stopped at a gas station. And this guy pulled up, and he was in a nice car. It was like a really nice SUV, kind of looked like Tammy's car. And then he was dressed up in kind of a suit, and he had two kids in the back, and he had a foreign accent. And he says, sir, I lost my wallet. I'm from Dubai. I don't have any money. And my gas is almost gone. Can you please get us some gas? And I said, yeah, no, sure. He says, no, I'll give you this ring on my finger, and this is the ring you gave me. I said, no, I don't want the ring. I'll just get you some gas, that was the verse that popped in my head was give to him who asks. And he insisted that I take the ring, so I took the ring, and this is what it is. But so got him some gas, and we left, and I come to find out later, because I was kind of researching the ring, because I was just kind of curious about it, and it said that it was a scam, that guys would pull up and they would offer a ring, and they would ask for gas or money or cash or something, and it didn't make me mad, and I'm not telling this to toot my own horn, because there's not much horn to toot, but I was glad that it was a scam, because I was kind of feeling bad in the fact that if I gave him some gas and he gave me this valuable ring, I'm getting paid for helping someone out. But in it being a scam, and in it being something that lots of people had experienced, I gave to him and didn't get anything back. That I gave to him just because that's what I know that God would want me to do. And again, this isn't to toot my own horn or anything. Most of the world would look down and say, oh man, he fell for a scam. But I think, no, that in the time that I came to God and I said, God, please forgive me. My spiritual gas tank is running low. God accepted me back, and God took me, and God cleansed me. And in this, even though it was a scam, even though he had bad intentions, I feel good in it because I still did the right thing in that. So it's not up to us to justify or to make sure that somebody's going to be using something for the right purpose or that they actually need it. It's just our job to give, even if it means that we're being cheated. Number 3 here. Say yes to going beyond. Not only just giving, not only just to being cheated, but going beyond what is required. And we got a verse here from Luke. It says, "Then Jesus said to his host, 'When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, it will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous.'" Think about that. This verse convicted me so bad because I'm like, I think about, inviting people, and then we think, oh, did they invite us back or this and this? And we get caught up in this petty little thing. But here Jesus says, and purposely go out of your way to invite, to feed, to help those who cannot at all possibly pay you back. Go above and beyond. How is a crippled person going to pay you back? How is a poor person going to pay you back? How is the lame, the blind going to pay you back? It's not about that. It's not about being paid back. It's about loving people like Jesus loved us. That when we're spiritually poor, spiritually blind, spiritually lame, that God looked down and he spiritually fed us. How much more can we physically do that for others? And this isn't just me saying that. This is Jesus saying, do this. This is one of those hard second yeses that we like the easy first yes, but the second yes of saying, yes, Lord, I'm going to obey you and I'm going to give. Yes, Lord, I'm going to obey you and I'm going to invite that person who needs this. Yes, Lord, I'm going to follow you. Yes, I'm going to be a light for you. Those second yeses, those are hard yeses. They're hard. In Matthew chapter 5 there's more. Matthew chapter 5. "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." The last thing I want to do is love my enemies. That's the last thing. But that's something that Jesus mentioned. Love your enemies. Don't ask for revenge. No eye for eye, no tooth for tooth. Love your enemies, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good. He sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? Love your enemies. Say yes that even when you're not going to get something back, even when it's going to physically hurt you, even when it's going to monetarily hurt you, that you're going to follow God, that you're going to follow Jesus and his example that he gave for us, that you're going to love unconditionally. Which brings us to our closing point. And this just doesn't even need anything. Our closing point is say yes to becoming more like Christ. He gave his life. He was cheated. He went above and beyond what anyone has ever done for any other person. Be like Christ. That's that second yes. That yes, we are going to follow and be like Christ. Not just in word, that we're not just Christians, but we are Christ followers. That yes, Lord, I will follow in the ways that you said. That's the second yes. Becoming more like Christ. We're going to sing our closing song here in a second, but I just want to challenge you guys in this week, and just not in this week, but in your life. Follow Christ. Work on becoming more like Christ. Say yes in those situations. And just because you mess up and you don't say yes sometimes, that doesn't mean that God's written you off. But it's an opportunity for next time to say yes. Because we all mess up. We all say no when we should say yes to God. But striving and keeping saying that second yes over and over again, that commitment, just like a relationship. That's what's important. So please join me in saying the second yes in our lives.